It's Doris with All the Books, and I am here with a wrap-up for my 24 and 48 readathon this past weekend. So I focused on finishing up several books that I was reading simultaneously, and I'm pleased to say that I got a lot done. It was nice to start off with almost a clean slate this week. So let's just jump right in. So actually before 24 and 48, I was going to finish this during 24 and 48, but I just couldn't stop reading it. 24 and 48 was on Saturday and Sunday, and so Friday night I was trying to get this, close enough so that I could finish it during 24 and 48, and I just finished it on Friday. And Krista from Books and Jams was also reading it at the same time, so we kept talking to each other about it. But anyway, this behemoth is a page turner. Ken Follett is apparently a thriller author and just fell in love with cathedrals and the construction of them and began researching just as a side interest and came up with this story. And so these are historical fiction novels that read like thrillers, really. I'm trying to think of what to tell you as to why people love these. They're set in, starts in 1123, and it centers around a monastery, a cathedral being built, a builder, a master builder who learns his art, and his goal in life is to build a cathedral. There's intrigue with a murder, not a murder, a hanging that was unjustified, and this theme carries out through the whole entire major novel. So with the builder, you've got his love interests and his children and his stepchildren, and with the intrigue, you've got a corrupt lord, a corrupt knight, and a corrupt priest, and you learn about the political system, the kings that were on the throne during this time period, and their arguments with the church at the time. And there's murder. There's a character that you love to hate. I mean, he is so awful. So awful that you just are just rooting for his death the whole time. So it's just really great. And apparently there are 2 sequels, which I will be on the lookout for at the used bookstores and read eventually. But I'm going to take a break here for a little while because that book was, it was kind of long. It was great, but it was long. So then I read finished off Robinson. I was reading with Sean, the Book Maniac, and Adam from Memento Mori. And these are all the beautiful vintage covers that I would love to own. Any of these, especially the cat, obviously. But they're all out of print because they're vintage. So the current cover, the only one you can get is just, you know me, I could not buy that. I could not. Oh, that's just ugly. So I ended up getting it on Kindle, which was fine. I couldn't find it in my library either. Rather obscure title. So that one, it's quirky. It's very quirky. So the premise is a plane wrecks on an island. There are only 3 survivors, and the island is, it's kind of a plantation for some kind of fruit. I don't recall what type of fruit. So there's one man who lives there and a boy that is kind of an orphan living with him. And plantation workers come periodically, but at the time there's only the 2 people there and then the 3 that survive the plane crash. So it's just very, very quirky, and on the surface level there's their relationships as they get to know each other, and a little bit of intrigue, genre fiction that, you know, Sean hates. And under the surface there are kind of allegories and symbolism with the Catholic Church. And so the first 5 chapters were they're kind of confusing. I find Muriel's part very confusing unless you're reading with Adam and he explains everything to you, and Sean, who looks everything up, then it's great. But it's quirky and I enjoy, like, she teaches the cat how to play ping pong. I mean, come on, that's cool. But then, let's see, chapters 6 and 7, I kind of really gelled with the allegory, and the symbolism like sparked my interest, and you know I love that junk, so I was just thrilled. It was gonna be great. And then chapter 8 was just like straight up genre fiction with some intrigue that I don't want to tell you about because, you know, it's a short novel, so you're getting pretty far in at that point. So I'm still cool with it. And then just the rest of the book, it fell apart. It just stayed confusing. It never came together. I was like, what the heck? So I'm still waiting to hear from the guys on the wrap up with that, but meh. And then Florida by Lauren Groff. This is a short story collection. All of the stories come back to Florida in some way. So with this book, if I had rated it after the first 5 stories, it would have been a 5-star read for me. I loved them. I read Fates and Furies, and the opening chapter of that book, I said, oh my gosh, Lauren Groff is gorgeous. Her writing is gorgeous, and she would write amazing short stories, and she does. But then I DNF'd that book because it was very contemporary and a lot of self-absorbed characters, and that's just not my thing. I realized that all of the settings were at a party, and it just was boring to me. But again, I was like, she's going to be a great short story writer, and she is. And I'm a native Floridian. These are set in North Florida, and she's not a native, but she's been living there for quite some time, and she understands it, and she writes about it beautifully. It was gorgeous. So there's that, you know, personal connection for me. And then her characters, you can see the personal connection with her characters. Oh my gosh, like they all seem like she was writing about herself. She had such a close relationship with her characters. It was amazing, amazing. The other thing I like about her writing is she's a little more edgy than some writers. She just puts it out there. Some of the things that she says initially, you're like, oh, you're not really supposed to talk that way. You're not supposed to say that. And I just really respect her for that. I mean, it's not bad. It's just not quite as PC as we're getting a little bit sensitive in our society. And I liked it. And there's also 2 of the stories in the first 5 have some might say magical realism, or you might say more dream sequence kind of things, depending on how you look at it. I like that too. Now, then we got to the 6th story, and that one just was, I don't know, for whatever reason, it just was distant to me and confusing and uninteresting. It was a 2. I would have rated it a 2. And then the second half of the book, you know, whereas the first half were all 4 or 5-star reads for me, and then the dud in the middle. And then the second half was more 3 and 4 star reads. So still good, but not quite the stellar quality of the first 5 stories. So, and the last half of the book tended to be people from Florida who were then living in other places. Like the last story is set in France. So anyway, but yes, I'm very happy to have this book. I really appreciated it quite a bit. And then I finished Small Wonder by Barbara Kingsolver, which I also appreciated tremendously. Barbara Kingsolver is a fabulous novel writer. Her Poisonwood Bible will probably be one of my top books of the year. I've read several others of hers that I love, and she always, I knew she wrote from environmental and social issue platforms. I'm going to tell you, the essay is her jam. She is a brilliant essay writer. These are so gorgeous and so insightful, and you know, her thinking is right where I am. You know, there were only 2 of these that I wouldn't have wanted to write myself because they weren't quite my thinking, but oh my gosh, she is, I love her. I love Barbara Kingsolver, and the sun is in my eyes. Let me do something about Sorry, this. That was awkward. And now we're shady, but anyway. So yeah. I would say, like, when I was reading this, the first half is probably 90% environmental, but then the second half you start getting more of the social issues, like there's an essay about her daughter, essay about her mother. There are several essays about, this was written right after 9/11, so, you know, think about that. So this is brilliant. And even though it's dealing with environmental and societal issues, and it was written in the early 2000s, or published then, let's see, 2002, I found that it wasn't all that dated. It still read in a very relevant way. So loved it. And then I finished China Rich Girlfriend by Kevin Kwan. This one I listened to on audiobook, and the narrator was just brilliant. She was an incredible voice. So incredible. But this is the second in a trilogy, and it just deals with the ultra rich in Singapore and China. The main character is actually from the US, not ultra rich, but ended up meeting an ultra rich in college and finding out that her dad was ultra rich eventually. But I don't know, they're just like, that's not my scene normally, but these are just so over the top that it is funny and amusing and actually interesting. And when you get down to the bottom of it, the problems that these people are having are normal people problems. So, or most of them are. There are some that aren't, but you know, yeah, these are just extremely enjoyable if you want something lighthearted and entertaining. I am enjoying them tremendously. And then last, but certainly not least, I finished The Obelisk Gate. Now, I didn't finish this one during 24 and 48. I finished this the next day, but still, I'm so happy with myself to get all these done. This is the second also in a trilogy, and these are, I feel like these walk the line between science fiction and fantasy. I can't really put them in either category, but yeah, these are dealing with kind of end times environmental issues with humans that have gone too far with affecting their world. I mean, imagine that, right? And so, yeah, I don't really know what to say except, oh my gosh, are they confusing. They are really hard to understand. You straight up have to pay attention all the time, and sometimes even then you don't understand. But that's kind of part of the writing style and the intrigue. It's not, these books are not about finding things out. They're more about figuring things out. So they're deliberately written to be confusing, if that makes sense. So yeah, I'm just completely intrigued, and you eventually learn more and, you know, get past some of your confusion, but there's always new confusions to get through. And I just have faith that by the end of the trilogy, I will know enough to feel satisfied. But I definitely think it's a series that you would want to read again one day just to really get it all. So yeah, that's what I've got read, and I got some more started because I'm doing 7 and 7 this week. So hopefully Friday I will have some more great books to share with you. So thanks for watching, and I will be back soon. Bye!